Good evening, everyone, and let me acknowledge the distinguished guests online here this afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Benarawa and their staff for this event in celebrating the occasion, and also for incorporating the Aboriginal Indigenous perspectives in this Survival Day celebration. Just a little explanation of, and to know that the Survival Day celebration is what some Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and supporters celebrate in their ability and tenacity to not only survive the occupation of their country but by non-Indigenous people, but continue to in the assertion and the fight for recognition and appreciation of our God-given sovereignty. My connection to this country is through my great-great-grandfather, who was born not far from here and lived all around this country, from North Stradbroke Island, Wynnum, around the Inala area, and also Ipswich and further up. His wife came from Boona, so it gives us a good connection to this country, and give us a traditional and custodial attachment to and responsibilities with most of southeast Queensland, because we're related to those. All right, I'd like to take this opportunity to express the interests and aspirations of a lot of Indigenous people who live in this country today. And as many will be aware, that this country was occupied by non-Indigenous people without consultation, without consent or consensus with the First Nation owners. A direct result of the occupation was dispossession, displacement, despair. The impacts of the occupation fail to recognise First Nations people's sovereignty and led to the disruption and interruption of Indigenous society that impacted on our political leadership and direction, economic development and opportunities, as well as the social and cultural integrity and truthfulness. Most of the issues that bring displaced people to Australia, like refugees, has already happened, is happening to Indigenous people in this country. So people need to be aware of that. There's been some significant success stories in the sporting field with Indigenous sports, people representing Australia and their people on the world stage, and that includes sports like tennis, boxing, tennis Yvonne Goolagong, boxing Lionel Rose, rugby league Aboriginal player Jonathan Thurston, and cricket Eddie Gilbert. I'll say Eddie Gilbert. In the political arena, things have not been good. It hasn't been good. Health, housing, employment, low home ownership, high incarceration rates, to name a few, all impact on Indigenous Australia and then impacts on the mainstream. So, if you think it's only affecting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, it will eventually affect the mainstream that Indigenous enduring at the moment. However, Indigenous people have never and will never give up the aspirations for a better life for their people. The Aboriginal and Indigenous Party, a newly formed political party, is running candidates as well. So, as you can see, Indigenous people are addressing these issues at all levels of government, at all levels of community, and are looking to improve the lives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So keep an eye out for that. So eventually, though, various avenues to represent individual people and groups, as well as our God-given sovereignty, will be recognised and will open the doors to true equality in this country. We're very hopeful of that. Well, I'd just like to say some words in our Yuggera language. Yawa Yuangan, Karamba Biran Nagambli, Balkana Yuggera Jarna, Karamba Nagura Nagambli, Balka Nagambli Yuggera Jarna. And that means hello, good day to you all. Greetings from our country. Great Spirit, God bless you all. And greetings. And I'll just say, always was, always will be. Thank you.
Today we'll be reading excerpts from Sharing Our Local Indigenous History, Charlotta Oxley. Prior to the European settlement in Australia in 1788, Australia was comprised of many nations within a nation. Living complex and diverse lifestyles, the clans of each nation lived within their boundaries, which were identified by the positions of mountains, landscapes, and the flow of the rivers and creeks. Daily life was comprised of hunting, gathering, food gathering, and preparation. Education of the children through song, dance, art, and storytelling. Childcare, abiding and learning of the law, cleaning, and other chores, to name a few.
Through their law, boys and girls learnt to become men and women. Each individual had a strong sense of identity and self-worth in their lives as they grew up, knowing who they were and where they came from, so they know where they were going in the future. Each person grew to be employed by the clan to perform a duty to ensure the survival and growth of the clan.
Through stories that have been gathered, we know of some of the aspects of daily lives of local Aborigines who lived on the abundant resources of the Oxley Creek catchment. In swampy areas, they obtained their staple foods such as roots of the bungalow fern at Willagong and fruits of the mangroves which they modified for eating, and the animals they hunted.
They used sandstone for grinding tools, ochre and shelter. Jasper and chalcedony were used for stone tools for hunting and gathering. The rock waterholes at Brockley were used as a camping place, and there was a Bora ring present in Chalma, where people today meet to play sport. Other activities would have been swimming and fishing at the creek.
Through these stories and experiences that have been passed on by early settlers, we are able to appreciate the fact that the river would have been a paradise for the Aborigines in this area, and the presence of their ancestors and lifestyle is still evident today.
The history of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples need to be written and spoken about so that all Australians have the opportunity to better understand the past and the present.
In sharing their wisdom with us, the local elders help us understand that rather than being an end in itself, these stories are just the beginning of our journey as a community towards respecting this land of Benawara and its Aboriginal heritage. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite you to join us in this part of our ceremony where we take a minute's silence to mark the passing of elders and others in the last year. We do this out of respect for those that we know, whose names we know, and just like Anzac Day, to show respect for those whose names we do not know. So please join us in a minute's silence to mark Survival Day.
Jingaree, everyone. Jingaree is greeting in my language from the Yuggabay Nations, which is south is between Logan River and Tweed River. And my tribe is Nyalanjali, and we sat between the Logan and Albert River, so that's my mob from the Yuggabay Nation. Well, it's another Australia / invasion / colonisation day on the 26th. It's the history behind that day I don't think they know the history. Although I heard someone said something right, they raised the flag, which is correct, but the majority of the people would say it's the day they landed. If they only look at their own history books, the day they actually landed was on 18th of January in Botany Bay, which is sad because that's my birthday. So I'm glad they don't declare that as Australia Day or Invasion Day. Then they realised to move up North Shore, and when they got up there, they was there for a couple of days, and then a soldier reported to Governor Phillips that the French are raising their flag. So it was only because the French was raising their flag that the British decided to raise theirs. So, you know, they don't want to tell this, they want to lie to everyone about the day, about Invasion Day, so it is funny. But the good things about it now is, you know, they're saying a lot of people want to change it, but they surveyed a lot of younger people, and they said about 63% says it's got to be changed. So, you know, this generation, that's young Pauline, that won't have your views changed, are thinking, you know what, I know it's taken a long time, but hey, in 20 years' time, that day will be called out for what it is, invasion. And we hope that we can start getting these young people, and even like today, how sacrilegious cricket players, Cricket Australia, are not calling their 26th day the Australia Day, you know, whatever, Cricket Day. They're calling it a public holiday. So, yeah, so there is somehow filtering around, it's finally getting there, taking a long time, but, you know, it can only get, you know, better, you hope, and who knows, maybe it might be less than like 20 years, or less than maybe 10 years to be saying happy whatever and not, you know, this dreaded thing you want to call Australia Day. Because in their own history, they don't realise that Australia didn't become Australia until 1901. So yeah, well, yeah, get your facts right if you want to call it day a day, if you haven't. Have a good day.
Hello, my name is John Moore, and as part of the Binarua team, I would like to welcome you all to the Survival Day Ceremony 2022. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land on which we live, past, present and future, because it is only through their cultural knowledge, support and guidance over the past 3 decades that has made Binarawa able to undertake its work. After a long and challenging 2021, we at Binarawa were looking forward to a return to our face-to-face Survival Day ceremony, renewing friendships and sharing this important day together. Unfortunately, after much thought and consideration, it was decided that due to current health circumstances, this would be too great a risk for all involved, but especially for our First Nations community. And so, for Survival Day 2022, we are pleased to present this online ceremony in solidarity with our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We thank you for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you in 2022.
Greetings. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the elders, cultural workers and all First Nations people who have joined us for today. The Binarawa Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Solidarity Group started in the 1990s. Its purpose was for people to come together and learn about our First Nations people's stories, traditions and lives before and since the arrival of the British. The Solidarity Group is grateful to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders and their community members who have in the past and those who now share their knowledge, wisdom and cultures with us. Binarawa advocates that the injustices, grieving and losses suffered by First Nations peoples be acknowledged and addressed by us as individuals, communities and governments, so that they can be given their rightful recognition socially, economically, legally and politically. Today, on Survival Day, we focus on the strength, determination, wisdom, resilience, patience, generosity and the survival of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders, their knowledge, traditions and their communities. Today is an act of respect and recognition of First Nation peoples' successive losses and of their suffering and ongoing struggle to achieve justice and have their rights heard, recognised and responded to by all Australians. Some of you may like to visit the bronze canoe at Simpson's Playground today, or walk down to the pontoon below the mouth of Oxley Creek and spend a minute or two in silence, reflecting on their lives forever changed, and perhaps cast a flower or a small branch into the water. The river is flowing, flowing and growing. The river is flowing down to the sea. Mother Earth, carry me back where I want to be. Mother Earth, carry me down to the sea. The Narawa is flowing, flowing and growing. The Narawa is flowing down to the sea. Laughter and love surround me, just how it ought to be. Laughter and love surround me and fill me with glee. The river is flowing, flowing and growing. The river
Mother Earth, carry me back